determine that they are right and done.
Yeah, go ahead.
I'm
going to think about that one for a second.
Well, yeah, go ahead. Now, first of all, on my side of the district, we're a pretty swingy district, okay? And so unless it involves education and the value thereof, I know that on a lot of issues, 50% of the people are going to disagree with me, okay? So it's not, on most issues, it's not usually possible to find a decision that's going to make everybody in the district happy, all right? Unless you can make traffic sale through easier or something. So what else do I base it on? Well, I do listen to people. I get ideas. Sometimes it's on the basis of what makes sense. You know, it's not always a values judgment. Sometimes it's on the basis of concrete sense, whether something works or not. And for that, I bring my background as an engineer and as a teacher and, you know, 56, I've been paying attention kind of thing. And listening to a lot of people. Sometimes it is really more values-based. And, you know, where do I get my values from? Starts with my parents. And I am very conscious of social justice issues. My parents grew up, well, my mother grew up dirt poor, and my dad didn't have the dirt when he was a kid. Okay, they both grew up in the Depression. My mother got her first pair of eyeglasses. A very incredibly nearsighted person got her first pair of glasses from the St. Louis County Welfare, and went from being a very mediocre student to top in her class, went on, got a couple of college degrees, was in the WAC, taught school, all this stuff, all of which was made possible by the fact that the county helped her out and gave her a pair of eyeglasses when she needed them. I think that was $50 well spent, even in 1931 dollars, okay? And my mom made sure I always knew that. You know, she made sure we knew where we came from and that people need a hand up and that we need to stick up for each other. She grew up in Embarrass, so, you know, if you didn't look out for each other up there, you might freeze to death, right? So, that, I am a person of faith. I am very grounded in my own congregation. In fact, I had lunch with one of my pastors today. And we are very, very conscious there, also of social justice issues, and so I've learned a lot there from those people. So I believe that we need to look out for each other. I don't believe in kicking anybody to the curb, basically.
Thank you for buying me some time. I will tell you this, that when I campaigned, there was one theme I hit at the doors all the time. And that was, in politics, we get people, present company excluded, Aaron, anybody else that could take the offense of this, who get really caught up in being in office and attribute that to be part of their identity, at which time they make decisions that are best for them to stay in office. And in my opinion, at that moment, you've lost the ability to objectively govern. Therefore, what I hold as my key values when it comes to being elected office is, what did I say I would do, and what are those principles I talked about? Jobs, I talked about supporting education, I talked about balancing the budget, and I talked about making sure we take care of our environment. So that guides me on those issues. Unfortunately, there are a million other issues we have to worry about. And so then I have to ask myself, well, many people ask me or think about what is the politically expedient thing to do. And I was very clear at my door. If I'm not doing what I said I would do, if I'm not representing you, then maybe I shouldn't be there. Right? And I could be fishing because I really enjoy fishing. But if I see there's a problem, and we have had a systemic problem in the way we budget, and the fact that we have watched the Plenty administration literally, in my mind, destroy big parts of our economy through the shifts and gimmicks, without, he wanted the programs we wanted to pay for, but he didn't want to pay for them. And that leaves the state legislature to manage that, and we get things like the education shift. Right? We don't take care of our schools, we disinvest from higher education, we leave people in a situation that are the most vulnerable among us. And that is how we are judged, at least in my mind, how we manage and take care of those folks. And we don't provide them with what they need to be successful, creating a ton of back-end problems. And let me give you the best example I can think of. When I wasn't involved in politics. I was a human resource director for a social service company. And when the 20 budget came in, it slashed social services, and I got laid off. And one of the things he did, right, is he cut respite care. And I know some of you might be familiar with respite care, but it's where people who have folks that have special needs can have someone come into their house and help them a couple hours each day to make it manageable for them, because if they didn't have that care, that person might have to go live in a group home. And he cut respite care to line out an item on the budget and to make it look like it was balanced. The problem with that idea is the next year, all those folks who got respite care at a tune of $1,000 a month or $500 a month are now living in group homes to the tune of $60,000, $80,000 a year. And the state can't avoid that responsibility. That is one example of the epic failure that is the way our budget's been managed over the last 10 years. So when I think about how am I going to solve a problem, the one theme you're going to see in almost all of my legislation is attacking a problem up front rather than handling it in the back end. And the clearest example I have of that is our healthcare system. Right now, we already have universal health care. The worst possible delivery of it and the most expensive way to pay for it, called the emergency room. That's just the reality we have. People are fighting against the idea of universal health care. We already have it, folks. And it's the worst system you could have. Because what we're doing is we're trying to cure problems that already exist and have probably been exacerbated to the point of either being very dangerous or at least really expensive. Right? And we're doing it in an emergency room setting, which isn't healthy for anybody, emotionally, physically, spiritually, any of that stuff. It's not a healthy place to be. You provide them with insurance up front, and they're spending less money down the road. The state saves tons of money, and we're being fiscally responsible. And that's what I try to use to guide the way I approach in many financial decisions, is what's the way to approach it up front so we're saving money down the road. That's something our government has failed to do in many ways. Almost every way, in my opinion, and that's something that needs to be fixed, right? And that comes to the way we manage jobs, providing support to manufacturers. With this apprenticeship program, a little money up front right now funnels tons of people from around the state into these apprenticeship programs, which then puts them into the manufacturing trade in which they're making a very good wage, and they're paying their taxes. Because in the end of the day, the only really healthy way to grow your taxes is to grow your base, not your rate. So, that's kind of how it guides me. But I have to talk about one more issue. There are several social issues that I've had some folks come and talk to me about. And how do I manage those? Right? The gay marriage issue is one. I had a wonderful group come in who was against the gay marriage issue a couple weeks ago. And we had, I think, one of the most enlightening, fascinating, friendly conversations you could ever possibly have between two people who didn't agree. And to me, that really made a difference to me, because I really was able to sit down and think and talk with them about what their concerns were, and they were so respectful and in no way judging. They just shared how they felt. And that's the kind of conversation I want to have, and that's the kind of conversation I want my Republican friends to know we can have. That just because we don't agree doesn't mean either of us are bad people. And that's what's also lost in politics today. And that really drives me nuts. Right? Because I don't like the idea that we're going to vilify someone as being somehow bad or inherently flawed just because we can't agree with them. This is America. That's how we roll. That's the way our country is, and that's okay. So.
Barb.